Good evening, everybody, and thank you for filling the room. It's great to see so many faces here. We've got a little bit of official business we have to do first because the normal chair of this committee isn't available tonight. So can I ask somebody to propose who should chair this meeting?
Could I propose that Andy, you chair this meeting for us?
Can I have a seconder for that? All those in favour? A seconder was Steve.
That's unanimous.
Okay, that's me elected as chair of the meeting. Thank you all. So, on with the rest of it. First of all, thank you all for joining us tonight. This is a meeting of Frome Town Council's Oversight Committee. I'm Andy Jones, and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. Just to remind everybody, we do have some people online. We record the meeting as well as the people who are in the room. And for those in the room, just a little housekeeping. So there's an emergency exit over there in the corner. The assembly point is the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right. There's an accessible toilet just by the lift over there. We've got some scaffolding framed off, so please don't consider climbing up that corner just at the moment. It's just while we're having some security works done. I think you're all aware there's tea and water over there, so help yourselves if you need anything. Tonight, Paul will clerk, and we've got Laura, Becca and Rachel managing minutes, question board, participant settings, and the IT generally. The meeting will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel. For councillors attending via Zoom, please use the yellow hand. Other people can ask questions through the Q&A board. Those in the room, just raise your hand if you want to talk to us. Okay, first on the agenda, we've got a presentation from the Frome Skate Park group. We got somebody up to talk to this, or does it run itself?
It's going to be me.
Okay.
If
you want, yeah, grab yourself a mic. There's a microphone there, I think. Let's just make sure it's switched on.
Yeah, which one do I press to move on? It's that one there, is it? Okay. Can you hear me? Do you actually need to use that?
We do need it to go through because of the people online. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, we'd like to thank you for inviting us to come and talk to you today. It's really important that we get to meet you all and you get to meet us and see what we're all about. And hopefully we can talk about how we can help each other. So that's a great thing. So basically, we're Frome Skate Park Project. We're a volunteer community group. We're made up of wheeled sports enthusiasts, parents of wheeled sports enthusiasts. And we've got kind of one mission, really, which is to fundraise for a new skate park in Frome for the use of skaters, scooterers, BMXers and roller skaters. We meet regularly, we take minutes, we have a chairperson, a treasurer and a secretary. And we believe that the town, the size of Frome, actually deserves a better facility for wheeled sports users right now. Our aim is really simple. We're just trying to get a new, bigger and better facility built, preferably in the same spot in Victoria Park, with obstacles that are fit for all abilities. In addition, we think it should be accessible for wheelchair users, well lit so people can feel safe, and with social spaces where users can take some time out and non-users can kind of hang out with skate park users. That's what we'd like, that's what we're trying to do. Okay, so the story so far, I think it's kind of useful for you to understand where we've come from. We haven't just sort of sprung out of the ground. We've been going since about 2020 when two young people, Noah and Ed, decided that they would try and do something about the facility in Frome as it is. So they started Frome Skate Park Project, and supported by Young Somerset and a grant from Frome Town Council. Thank you very much. They put on a really great skate jam sort of event at the Cheese and Grain in August 2021. To move forward as a community group, we needed to get some sort of adults involved really, so we could get a bank account and we could do all the things that we needed to do to sort of try and push that campaign on. And we did that in sort of 2022. So since then we've been meeting, taking minutes, trying to push things forward and get some momentum behind this idea of a new skate park. So what we've been doing is holding events. We've been, did one with Route 1 up at Frome College. It was really brilliant. We've been doing stalls at the Frome Independent, selling merchandise, making a few quid, which is brilliant. And we also helped out at the drone show, Shaking Buckets. So that was good as well. I think this is the nub of the problem for us, like why we actually need a new skate park. If you look at the photographs there, you can see, and we've got loads that we could share with you. These are just a few. It's kind of not really fit for purpose right now. It's nearing the end of its life. We've got chip ramps, we've got surface wear, some of the kind of concrete ramps where there's metal that kind of leads up to it. There's like gaps underneath. There's sort of jaggedy edges. It's a bit harsh to skate, to be honest with you. So when it was kind of created as well, provision and access for wheelchair users wasn't taken into account. And it was designed it wasn't ever designed in conjunction with the users as well. And I think this is a real issue. So there's obstacles there, and that's really good, but they're too close together. There's no flow through the park. So people that are experienced can't get as much enjoyment as they might out of it. And people that are inexperienced, with the damaged ramps and the fact that the obstacles aren't set up in the right way, kind of makes it a bit dangerous for younger people. And I think that if you are starting out, skateboarding, scootering, BMXing, whatever it is, and you go and you try it and you fall flat on your face, you might not do that again. And I'll come on to the benefits that skate park can bring in a little bit. And I think that would be a shame for the young people of Frome, well, for people of all ages in Frome, actually. Okay. Yeah, this is an important point, I think. Smaller towns and villages in our area, the likes of Bradford and Avon, Evercreech, Bruton, Pilton, have all got a better skate park than Frome. It's a bit embarrassing, in my opinion. That's a bit weird, It's like we're a big town, prosperous town. I know money's always tight, but actually it feels like we should have a better facility than we've got right now. So what we're trying to do as a group is to kind of say that we have an opportunity right now to create a brilliant facility that will serve the people of Frome and the surrounding villages for many years to come. And that's an exciting opportunity as far as we're concerned. Okay, just quickly, I'll rattle through the benefits. I know we haven't got loads of time on this, but I think this stuff is really important. So wheeled sports are for everyone. I think there's a perception that it's for teenage boys. It's just not true. We've been doing those stalls, we've been talking to people, and there's a whole kind of like unseen bunch of skaters in Frome, whether it's groups of women in their 30s or old guys like me that are turning up on a Sunday morning before everyone else comes out. There are lots of female skaters as well, and it's not who it's perceived for, it's really for everyone. Also, I think is the importance of kind of keeping people active. There's an obesity epidemic. Everyone's worried about how little activity people are doing. And actually, it's a way to kind of get people in, get them excited with the right facility, feel that progression, and really kind of take it on and stay active for a lifetime. I'm still, well, right, I'll get into that. Right, so this is an important point as well. There's a really low barrier to participation. So kind of most kids have got a scooter or a skateboard or a BMX. They got something like that. So it doesn't require a club. It doesn't require loads of expensive equipment. They kind of tend to have something they can ride on a skate park already. And that's kind of really important. There's a cost of living crisis on. People haven't got loads of money. They haven't really got the money to get on a bus to go to Bath or Bradford and Avon or wherever it is to kind of skate on a decent facility. But also you don't need that club. You don't need those fees every month for an expensive sport, low barrier to participation. Some more benefits then, really positive for mental health. Actually, physical activity, everyone knows that's really good for mental health, but it's also the positive benefits that come with interacting with a group of really supportive people. People that use skateboard parks or skate parks, whether they're skaters, scooters, BMXers, whatever they are, they're really supportive of each other. Actually, there's a real kind of group of people. You egg each other on, you support each other, and that's really positive. That idea of a supportive community, I think it can be really important for some kids and actually an absolute lifeline, actually. And it's a way of expressing yourself. It's some people choose to pick up an instrument or learn to sing or, I don't know, do pottery or something. Some people express themselves through skateboarding. I think it's really, and other wheel sports, I must remember. Okay, it's also brilliant for personal development. Young people get to support each other. They get to take turns. They can be validating places for people. If the home life's not great, they can be really validating. You can go there. You might feel terrible at home, but you can go to a skate park and be, king or queen of the ramps, and feel really good. I think that's really important. antisocial behaviour is something that I think will come up, when we start talking about new skate park facilities, where actually we can share numerous articles and studies with you that actually says that if you've got a decent facility, it can reduce antisocial behaviour within a town. I think that's because if you get a good facility, you get a lot of people coming there, and it kind of polices itself. Whether that's different people, different ages, they might say, "Wait, come on, don't do that. That's crazy." Okay. So there will be some challenges. We kind of have noted down the three main ones that we think would come your way. So cost, okay. So facility, decent facility for a town this size, it's not cheap, okay. But Froome Skate Park project just exists. We only exist to kind of raise money to afford this new park. So once we've reached certain targets, we can apply for various grants and lottery funding. There's a lottery grant available. If you're sort of like just shy of your target, you can kind of get in and start applying for those grants. Noise for residents. I think this is probably something that we've talked to people about when we've been on our stalls doing the skate park stuff. There's a sort of fear when that be noisy, bigger park, more noise. But actually, modern skate parks and the concrete they use is quieter. It's kind of it sucks in that noise. You don't get that kind of. That is the noise that skateboards make. So I'm sure you like that. And we've actually had conversations with residents of Longleat Court. So Sue, one of our chairperson. Her mum's there, and actually in the kind of conversations that Sue's had with the residents of Longleat Court, they knew they were moving to a place next to a skate park, right? That has always been there, and actually, overwhelmingly, it's kind of positive. The exuberance of people having fun, being outside, being active, it's liked, So that's okay. Antisocial behaviour, we'll come back to it again. It is a concern, we understand, but actually, we feel that a lot of antisocial behaviour is driven by boredom. So a good skate park facility that people can go to, it will give them something to do. Also, we really, really, really firmly believe that idea of more people of different ages sharing a decent facility will kind of begin to police itself. Okay. So here's the big one. What are we asking for you today, Froome Town Council? £200,000. No, we're not asking for £200,000. Actually, first and foremost, we just want to introduce ourselves. Okay, we've realised that we're just not on your, what do you call that? Radar. Thank you, radar. Yeah, we're just not on your radar. You don't know who we are. Okay, so we've been grinding away, trying to make money, and going, we don't really know what's going on. But now you know who we are. That's great. That's the first thing. We'd also like an acknowledgement from you guys that actually sooner or later something has to be done about the park as it exists. Okay. As early as 2022, we were told that the current park had a life expectancy of around 5 years. So obviously, tick tock, time is getting on. But I think we've got an opportunity here, not just to do a refresh, not to just to sort of patch it up and kind of move on. We've got an opportunity to do something really, really brilliant that people really love, and celebrate Froome Town Council for. They'll be going, wow, this is great. They've provided this amazing facility. We'd also like you to understand that our preference is to build a bigger and better park on the existing site. So we're aware that there'll be a consultation on Victoria Park, and we really want to be involved with that because I think we want to make sure that our voice is heard. And we'd also like you to be aware that although we can't say we represent everyone in Froome, the conversations that we've been having when we've done our stalls and stuff it's overwhelmingly positive. People are really interested in the idea of a new skate facility in Froome. Whether it's parents, especially parents, they love the idea that it's a great facility for their kids, but lots of people of lots of different ages are like really for the idea of a new skate park. So, to sum up, because I've probably gone over time, I'm sorry, we're here to help Froome Town Council do something really brilliant. So if you work with us, use us, we can do something incredible together. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you can just hang on to a microphone for the moment, I'm going to go first. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm going to go first to council colleagues to take some questions. Fiona first.
Hi, I'm Fiona. I'm one of the Froome Town councillors. Thank you very much for the presentation. We actually saw a couple of presentations yesterday, and that was really good. Your PowerPoint slides particularly were excellent. And I really appreciate everything you said. I really appreciate particularly sort of emphasis on inclusivity and on sort of mental health and all of that. I think it's brilliant. I've got a couple of questions, just trying to get my head around it. And actually, maybe more for James. I'm presuming on the current site, if it was to expand, we would need to get planning permission. Is that, I'm presuming a skate park is subject to planning permission. Is it likely to get planning permission there if it was to grow? Is that...
I would
putting
say
you on the
no.
spot. Okay. Is that why do you think that?
So there would be noise issues, appreciating that, you know, residents have been spoken to, but it's not just about protecting the residents that are there now, it's also about protecting future residents. And it's not necessarily just the noise of the ramps, but obviously the noise that will be generated by people enjoying themselves. And also, I think there was some mention of lighting. So there are lighting issues as well. That's my view. But, you know, obviously, and I also believe that we've had discussions with, is it Maverick? The people who build, construct, however you do it, skate parks. And it was also their opinion that it would be very unlikely to get planning permission on an on an extended footprint. It's very difficult to give you, you know, obviously we're not the planning authority, can't give you a categoric answer, and without actually having a design to consider, you know, there are also design impacts. I could go on forever, I'll shut up now.
No, I guess I'm just trying to sort of think it through. And I will also say, I've been working quite closely with Frome College recently. I don't know whether any of you guys are from Frome College, but working with the Earth House Initiative, and some of the students came to a recent council meeting, so to speak. And one of the things they said was, you know, the lack of spaces for them. And I think that has been heard very loudly and clearly on numerous times. So we are very aware of that. And I've also sort of, you know, we're hoping to sort of be able to bring more students in on co-designing, because I really agree with what you say, that like these spaces need to be designed by the people that use them. So if, and I'm not saying, is there any other site that you've got your eyes on in Frome? Is there anywhere else that you think is likely to, you have like a, if that's like number one, do you have like a sort of a...
We've had lots of discussions over the years with, I mean, initially it was with people like Chris Stringer, then obviously it's with Rob and various people. But it always comes back to, for us, that really Mary Bailey Playing Field is the best site. It's a site everybody knows the skate park's there. It's where the skaters want to, and everybody else, scooterers, whatever, want to have a new skate park. It's right in the centre of town. It's easily accessible. Most of them arrive on foot. I know parking has been spoken about as a big issue, but most of them arrive on their whatever they're going to be going on the ramps on. They're not arriving by car. And various things have been mooted over the years about Section 106 money and other things that might become available. But frankly, we don't know down the line which of those developments are going to happen. It may be a heck of a long time before anything else becomes available to use Section 106 money for. And some of those developments may be refused. They may not happen. And in the meantime, the skate park in the park is deteriorating year on year, and you know, will need replacing. I mean, either way, it's got to be replaced at some point. So why not replace it with something bigger and better? Lovely smooth concrete that won't be noisy. And actually, we were there at the meeting. I mean, Merlin was there at the meeting with Maverick and Rob. My son Ed, who's away, or otherwise he'd be here, he was also at that meeting. And Maverick were very keen to help out to make it happen. That is what they do. And he couldn't see ultimately that there would be a big issue. But we've always come across the stumbling block of it's going to be too noisy. It's a park. It's going to be noisy, whatever happens.
I think the stumbling block isn't that it'd be too noisy. The stumbling block is that you might not get planning permission. Like, I think that's what I'm trying to get to. Is that because
we wouldn't get planning permission because it's going to be too noisy.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is, I think to me it's like an amazing idea, great presentation, completely get it, completely understand all of it. You say you can get the funding, so it's like, yes, you're brilliant. You know, look at the money. To me, the issue is going to be the land and where, and the planning permission. So I'm just trying to like work out what the options are, because I'm guessing we don't have any, I can't think of anywhere else that springs to mind in terms of other, and if you can't either, So I don't know how we sort of begin. It's difficult because I'm guessing you need to do a lot of, in order to sort of begin the process for planning, like that's quite a lot of work.
There's a lot of kind of chicken and egg stuff. So we have
Yeah.
had, from someone at Freetown Council sent us the list of all the owned land. Okay, so I think stepping back a bit, the idea that we can also fund the money to get the land is that doubles the cost straight away, right? Which is, all of a sudden it's like it's not a hill to climb, it's a mountain, right? So there's a lot of sort of roundabout stuff. That there is no land owned by Freetown Council that it would be kind of suitable. There's just not the sort of size and the placing. So there's a facility that already exists. Part of this is our ambition, right? So it's like, if you're going to do it, why not have the ambition to make it bigger and a bit better, right? So when we say bigger, it could be on the same footprint, and we've had those conversations around that as well. Would it be, do you need planning permission to do it within the same footprint? It's different.
Planning, Jane? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
It's a difficult question to answer because it very much depends on the height and volume of whatever you want to replace it with. I can't quote you the figures off the top of my head, but there are volumes over. If you go over that, then you require planning permission. So possibly it may do. Can't confirm that at this point.
I think we're getting a fairly clear message out of this. Can I move over to Nick, Fiona?
Yeah, thanks very much for coming, and really interesting to listen to you. I was lucky enough to live next door to Noah for a while before I moved, or he moved actually before me. And I've never been a skater. I have other sports, but I took my partner's 10-year-old nephew up there last year in the winter, and he was a very nervous kid from mid Wales. And he was kind of quite daunted about the idea of going there, and I wasn't sure what the reception would be. We went there, and there was two guys there, and they were so friendly and supportive. I mean, his face afterwards was just amazing. He wasn't quite brave enough to do a full loop, but it was just a really lovely feeling, and I can see why something like that is powerful and very important for a town centre. And obviously interested to see you say a number of girls are also involved in it. I mean, in percentage-wise, how many? If you,
I mean, the reality of that is it's still low, but the more visible it is, we've got Sky Brown in our Olympic team. She's Olympic bronze medalist, and I do talk to there are the percentages are small, but it's not insignificant, right. And I think the more visible it is, the better it is. The skate event that we put on at Frome College, some girls came in from Bristol and they were so good, and you just see little girls kind of going, "Oh, that's great," Okay.
Yeah. Actually, just before I come to you, Anne, we've got a great collection of wheeled sports enthusiasts, I think was the term you used, in the room. I don't know if any of you have got comments you want to make or other statements, other points you wanted to raise about it while you're here. Just wanted to make sure you got that opportunity. It's a public meeting. You're welcome to speak. Okay. That's fair. I mean, it was a great presentation and touches so many of the strategic initiatives that the Town Council is trying to push forward. Anne,
I was just going to comment on the facility on Welsh Mill. Is there any way that we can extend that, perhaps while the skate park is being refurbished in Victoria Park? Do BMXers use it? Who uses that at the bottom of Welsh Mill?
Sorry, Fiona, there's somebody behind you, I think.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you wanted to. Oh no, I thought you were saying like who uses the pump track at Welsh Mill.
Yes.
Yeah. What do I say? Do you use it? Oh yeah, yes.
Is it bikes, not skateboards? Is that what?
You can use skateboards best, but not you don't really normally bikes. Yeah. Yeah, bikes.
I mean, I was involved in Frogs at the time, and that it is designed for bikes. I mean, you can, but it's not as it is a pump track for bikes.
I was just thinking, in the co-design of the new facility, it would be great to bring that community in as well, to participate. So maybe, extend the membership of your group to them as well, just so we can do a bit of co-design with all of the wheeled sports enthusiasts in the town.
We love that. So our view is that a properly designed facility would be used by sort of BMXers and mountain bikers less, but BMXers. The pump track's a different thing. It's like it's to get kind of like speed and jumps and stuff like that. But actually, it'd be another additional facility for someone.
Yeah, I'm ignorant of all of these things, so I'm learning.
I mean, clearly there's no silver bullet on this one. You've done a great job tonight in bringing this higher up our radar, putting some great points forward. So, I thank you all for coming. It's great to see you.
I just wanted to say that all the successful skate parks that Kim mentioned, whether it's Evercreech, which has just got a new one, or Bruton, which are just successful, Bradford Avon, they've all been successful because they've had the full support of the town councils. They've worked together on fundraising and they've made them happen. And I've just seen tonight on the Bradford Avon council site that they are running skating lessons for kids in the holidays on their new skate park in Bradford Avon. And they also have special sessions every Sunday for girls to go and skate and be taught how to skate. And we would love for all of that to happen in Frome, for it to be totally inclusive from young people up, girls, everybody. So that's what we're aiming for.
No, that's fine. And, I don't doubt that this council is in support of that. We're just trying to find a way to take it forward. Paul, did you have some comments you wanted to make?
Yeah, I mean, we've all searched for the ideal place, and if we took Mary Bailey playing field out of the equation, there isn't an ideal place, is there? It's a really fair point that you make. If it's not on town council land, it's going to be really expensive to buy that. But let's not ignore that possibility, because I think the most important thing is to get the right piece of equipment, as opposed to compromise and squidge in somewhere. So let's not ignore the kind of the potential of other sites in the town that aren't on town council land, because we haven't got that place to do it. So let's hold that one. The second thing, we could, with you, test whether planning permission would be possible up there, both on the existing footprint and an expanded one. I think that's possible. I think you mentioned in your presentation, we are planning this autumn to start having so here's Mary Bailey, here's Victoria Park, what on earth do you want doing with it? It's that kind of start from scratch. And I think it'd be really, really good to have those discussions as part of that, to make sure actually that there isn't just this group wanting to do it. And if there's an upswell of people in the town really want that, and there's loads and loads of them, that makes our job really much easier, doesn't it? To go, okay, right, there's 25,000 people in Frome want this pump track. How are we going to make this happen? And if that's the response we get, I think that would be really powerful. I mean, councillors would really struggle to go, oh, don't know about that. So please be part of that as it happens. Nikki's starting in the autumn, probably sometime. Yeah. And I wonder whether we could sort of test a bit, sort of, I mean, Jane as our planning officer has an opinion, but she's not the planning authority. And I wonder, Jane, whether we could actually take that a little bit further, because if there is absolutely no chance of it happening up there, at least we know that. If there is a chance of it happening, and it kind of, if you did this with the design, then it could happen, then we'll know that as well. And I think this is I think where we've been struggling with until tonight, perhaps, in that saying, okay, well, we can't get planning permission. Yes, you can, and we need to close that up. I think to say, well, definitively, it's a runner or it's not a runner, and that enables us to collectively move forward together, doesn't it?
Looking at Mary Bailey Field, have you looked at moving it within Mary Bailey Field?
I have to say, no, we haven't really considered where else it
That
would be.
might be something worth looking at, to move it to another spot within Mary Bailey Field. It wouldn't be reducing the actual open space within Mary Bailey Field by a great amount, because you would then use the spot the existing skate park's on to replace where you're going to put it. I'm just thinking there might be a spot within Mary Bailey Field which is less intrusive in terms of noise, you know, maybe backing onto the tennis club, is it, or the bowls club or something like that. I don't know, maybe worth looking at.
I mean, the stuff you said is great, and we will work with you as much as we can. I think that the frustration for us has been the first thing that people ask is, okay, where's it going to be? You know, when we're talking to people, where's it going to be? We think it's going to be Victoria Park. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, what does it look like? Well, we haven't had a design done yet because we don't know the footprint, right? So there's a whole kind of like vicious circle kind of going round and round and round and round. But something like you've just talked about there, about sort of maybe speculative planning permission on a similar size place or a bigger one, and we can get sort of a design down with our partners at Maverick or whatever it is, to make sure that there's something sort of a bit more tangible to talk about.
Okay, I'll let Jane come back on that, and then maybe we should wrap this topic.
Yeah, absolutely, we can test it. And I was going to say what we would need is some kind of, you know, very basic initial design, to, you know, including size, height would be a key. And it doesn't have to be the final plan. And I think Steve's suggestion maybe of, if it's feasible, obviously that would probably be perhaps a conversation with Rob as well, but looking at maybe relocating it within the area to pull it away from those residential properties where noise and light pollution are not going to be such an issue. You know, start big, and if the pre-application advice is no, you know, you've still got the opportunity, you know, maybe negotiate down a bit, but absolutely we can test it if.
Okay. Anything else from you, Paul, before we wrap this?
So I wonder if whomever can have a chat with Jane about sort of doing the process. I think we can apply for planning permission ourselves on your behalf, because it's
Well, it would be a pre-application, so anybody can do that, and we've done that before on various different things. So yeah, we can do that. What we need from you is that initial sort of sketch plan.
Nikki, do you want to add anything?
Microphone, please.
All the stuff that you've done in terms of the equality stuff is great, and looking at kind of your development over the kind of past 2 years, but also linking it with our place strategy, which will build a really big, powerful application. And I sent you some information earlier, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I do think it pushes a number of buttons that we're trying to find solutions for, so happy to support it in the best way we can. I would like to thank you all for turning out this evening. Really appreciate it. It's great to have a full house, even if it's only for this item on the agenda. I do understand that you're probably not interested in staying for some of the detailed stuff that we're going to go on to following it. So do feel free to leave at this point, but do feel free to come back to future meetings of this or the main town council. These are public meetings, and we really like to hear the views of our residents. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks. All right, gather round, folks. Okay, the room feels sort of empty and echoey suddenly. Can we go on to agenda item 2, apologies for absence?
Yes, I had apologies from Mark, Dorrington and Ben Still.
Thank you. Propose that we accept those from Fiona, seconded by Anne, and it's unanimous once Steve picks up his piece of paper and waves it in the air. Thank you. Declarations of councillors' interests. Nothing specific on the agenda. Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Any questions on those? If not, I'll take Fiona and Nick seconding, and that's unanimous.
Jane's left the room and she was going to update you on the yellow lines. So maybe when she comes back, she could do that, Andy.
Right.
There was an action in the minutes from last time about yellow lines on Broadway. Yeah.
Okay.
So Jane's got an answer for that.
Can we take that as part of item 3 then, under questions and comments?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mind you, we'll probably end up going through that item fairly rapidly because there ain't no members of the public in the room. Are there any online? Okay. Here's Jane. Jane, yellow lines on Broadway.
That sounds like a song, doesn't it?
I spoke to the Somerset Highways team this morning and they have confirmed that the order for the lining has been placed. So it will be done. It will just be on the corners, on the bell mouth of the junction to replace what's worn. Can't give me a timescale for doing that because obviously the contractor that they use doesn't come out and do one at a time. They do a group of them. It could be quite soon. I can't confirm a timescale, but it will be done by Somerset Council.
Okay. All right, thank you. So were there any questions and comments from councillors? Fiona?
Got a bit of an existential one of what are we doing here? In terms of us as the Oversight Committee, I just sort of thought when I got the agenda, when the Oversight Committee was first sort of designed, it was very much about sort of like, I always thought it was about sort of doing a bit of a deep dive into sort of specific areas of the council, and sort of, how we could maybe look at sort of, I think in the notes it was effectiveness and efficiency, I think that came from Mel, of those sort of areas. But I guess I was sort of quite intrigued to sort of, looking at sort of into areas specifically, whereas councillors, because we're sort of, both in and out, and we sort of have a bit more of a bird's eye view, we might be able to be helpful and valuable and sort of offer some insights or I don't know, something. And I guess I'm sort of slightly concerned that the last couple of meetings have felt like sort of overflows of normal council meetings. And so I'm just sort of, I don't know, I guess I'm just sort of feeling like maybe it's sort of slightly lost, this committee sort of slightly lost its way slightly, I guess. And I just sort of don't know whether anyone else sort of feels similarly. And I quite like something a bit meaty to kind of get my teeth into. Not that I'm not interested in safeguarding procedures, but...
Someone's got to be. Steve and I were talking about the sort of what kind of things to put on council, what kind of things to put on planning, and what type of things to put on oversight, bearing in mind the remit, which is as you say, Fiona, sort of hoping for a deep dive on certain things. The design there was to sort of, when Sally talks about the town hall, that was designed to be a bit of a deep dive. We were in a funny time of the year because we're at the end of the first quarter of the work programme for the year. And Laura and I were working on the agendas of upcoming oversight committees and town council meetings. And those will be much more heavily populated as a result. So maybe ask the question in the autumn and see how it feels. This is a quiet one, without any doubt.
Just sort of, that's fine, but maybe we could sort of, if you do sort of look at what's coming ahead, maybe we could have a look at that, and at the next oversight committee, like look at what sort of is coming up.
And we have slotted a couple of extras in to give us a bit more bandwidth, haven't we?
Yes, in terms of them. So maybe at the next one, look at sort of, if we are going to do a bit more of a deep dive, sort of maybe have a look at what those subjects could be for the next sort of 6, and we could sort of discuss it. I guess I've always seen this as sort of being the how. If the main council is what we're doing, this is the kind of how we're doing it. sort of thing. That's maybe me, but that's just sort of, I guess that's how I.
Yeah, I mean, what we spoke about was that there's some key things, obviously, that we feel should go to council, like updates on the football club, just because it's been raised and stuff like that. And then there's other areas of the work plan which, although are as important, probably not as public facing as things like that, and they can come to the oversight committee. So what Paul and I started this week was having a look at all the different work programs and saying, right, well, that can go to oversight, that should go to council, obviously planning can go to planning and stuff like that. So that was that sort of process. So I think for the next one, that's when that process will start.
I guess I also worry again, though, that that's then getting it into sort of like the smaller, a smaller council meeting. To me, there's actually something very specific about this, as I said, sort of the how. I think rather than just being about the work programme, actually how do we decide the work programme would actually be something really interesting to look at, and that sort of process for agreeing it. I don't want to mention the S word, strategy, because I know that's going to cause lots of, but actually, that to me is something that actually would be really good to have in a smaller group of sort of, councillors to look at.
Yeah, and that comes
maybe rather than sort of creating other smaller groups, maybe more stuff just comes to rather than these sort of steering groups.
Well, the budgetary process, when does that start? It starts about November, isn't it? October, November, and that's when things like work plan are started to
What I mean is like how we do it. That's what I'm trying to get at, is it's not just about like the process for councillors, like how councillors can input into the work programme and into the strategy, and how we sort of agree it would maybe be something to look at. I guess I guess I just sort of feel like rather than it just being like, smaller things from the council meeting, having more of an identity and more of a drive would be helpful.
So what I'd really, so two things. Let Laura tomorrow send out the upcoming agendas, so that kind of couches this discussion, and then maybe sort of as a group of councillors come to me saying, no, actually this is what we want from oversight, because your opinion is absolutely valid. Are you talking on behalf of 60 and others as well? Yeah, so it would be really helpful for me to get that kind of consensus in the context of these are the upcoming broad items that are on oversight and are on council and planning as well, that Steve and I were just chuntering through yesterday. Would that be good? So
I've got a suggestion. Something we do on the pensions board, and I think on the pensions committee for Somerset, is we've got a sort of rolling business plan for those meetings. So anyone who's interested at a meeting, one of the standing agenda items is to look at the upcoming meetings, so you can see how things are going to play out over the year. And that works really well, because you can see, okay, I'm not going to bring it up here because I can see you're doing it in October,
So we can send out what we think is on the agenda at the moment, and actually in the upcoming agendas just have a section at the bottom going, plan for November is the following subject. So there's just a sort of a framework on which to build the discussion.
And that agenda item also includes, the process for, if I want to raise something, how do I do it? So that agenda item is a constant thing that anyone who's there can say, I can see it's coming up in October, but actually I'd like to bring this up in October. Can I talk about it now? And then, so you're sort of pre-warned and it's on the agenda automatically.
Okay.
I will love that.
All right. Anything else from you, Fiona?
I just thought about it today as I was reading through the numerous applications that we've had for the Climate Action Lead. And as councillors, we all use our personal laptops because we don't get given council laptops, and they have different operating systems, and every single one of those bloody applications came up in a weird format and it was all over the place. It's a nightmare. So when we look at new computing systems and how we set stuff up, can we please make it so that there's like who don't have Windows and Mac who use different operating systems to see things. It was just, everything was coming up scrambled.
And I strongly second that.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. We use stuff like Google Docs. When I've done recruiting on green healthy food, but on the adventure side of things, they've done it as a Google folder, and it's just really nice and easy because it all looks the same. Whereas every document was coming up in and they all looked silly, and I couldn't work it out.
Okay.
Yes, we'll look into it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anybody else? Okay, let's move on to item number 4 then, and Sally's report on this building's energy usage.
Are you okay if I just sit here rather than standing
Yeah,
in front of the lectern? Yes. So I've been asked to draft a retrofit report for the town hall. Thank you. My thinking is to highlight ways in which the town hall can become more energy efficient. And I'm thinking about things in the context of also of the problems that we've recently had in the roof, in the ceiling here, and also within the context of the climate emergency and our plans to decarbonise the town hall by 2030. So if you've got my kind of executive summary of the report in front of you, broadly speaking, I've sort of come up with 4 kind of general observations of work that we could do to the town hall sort of now, and then I've sort of want to expand on sort of suggested actions, and end with sort of further areas that I think we could explore. I've also put together some slides which I'm going to leave until last, but could be useful to illustrate some of the bits and bobs that I'd like to highlight that I think that we need to look at quite urgently. So generally, there are sort of 4 areas. We need to carry out some urgent repair work at the moment, and in particular on the external walls and the loft at the moment, and that's because there are sort of issues with breathability in those kind of areas that are currently causing problems with rot in the roof, and I think acting on those repairs now will avoid further sort of costs in the future. Secondly, there are sort of high levels of heat at the moment being lost from the entrance area, and that's because we have a policy of an open door, and the sort of secondary doors, internal doors, are currently very leaky, and so that's another area that I'd like to sort of highlight that we could look at. Thirdly, there's no effective ventilation system in the town hall at the moment. We've got very high levels of humidity, and in various offices there are sort of it makes rooms very uncomfortable to work in. It's also very unhealthy to have such high levels of humidity. It can help, high levels of humidity are sort of bad for you because it can help bacteria and fungal spores sort of breed. So it can, give us, it can make colds become worse. It can aggravate asthma and eczema and various other conditions. Part of that is also sort of bound up in the sort of layout of the rooms, which have, at the moment, all the offices have sort of fixed desks around the outside of the room, and that was put in order to sort of make it easier to sort of service those desks. But it also makes it impossible to open the windows without sort of climbing on desks, and that's obviously a health and safety issue as well as a ventilation issue. Just like to sort of point out also that, particularly in room 4, which is the office that I sit in, we also have high levels of pollution from the road in that room, and obviously that increases when we open the windows. So that sort of forms part of a strategy that I'd like to propose for ventilation. And number 4 in the kind of highlighting, areas that we need to tackle now, the existing heating system, whilst fit for purpose at the point of installation, is inefficient, and that's really because the old style radiators are fed by these big sort of cast iron pipes, and the cast iron pipes can't be isolated from the radiators, and effectively the pipe delivering the hot water is acting as a sort of secondary radiator. So there's very little control over radiators at the moment, which is obviously leading to sort of inefficiencies. And across the building, we're experiencing areas which are very cold to work in, whilst simultaneously we've got offices that are very hot. So that's the 4th sort of area that I think that we need to look into. So for now, I've got some suggestions of how to move forwards. So I suggest that we initiate an urgent programme of works to carry out repairs to the external walls. And I'd like to sort of suggest that work is concentrated on the sort of stonework details which help to shed water from the outside of the wall. So I'm talking about sort of sills, coping stones, cornices, and this is also a sort of an energy saving matter as well as being a maintenance issue. Wet walls take a lot more energy to heat than dry walls. I think estimates from English Heritage put savings of sort of in the region of between 30 to 50%. We need, and then the second point is that we need additional ventilation in the loft void. So at the moment, clearly we've got a problem with dry rot in the roof. If you go up into the loft, there's discoloration on the rafters in general around the whole of the roof void. It's very hot up there. It's very kind of wet, and if you lean against any of the rafters, you can feel sort of damp through the wood. And clearly, those are the sort of conditions which dry rot loves. So, although it's called dry rot, it actually loves living in wet. It's called dry rot because when you pick up a piece of wood that's been attacked by dry rot, it's very brittle and it crumbles under your fingers. And when we had the cornice taken down over there, that was what we could see, that all of those moulding pieces were sort of crumbling away. And I have a very sort of simple solution that I'd like to put forward for that, which involves sort of vents which can be very easily slipped in between the existing roof felt, and that would be quite an expedient sort of immediate remedy, or at least it'd be worth a try. And then I think we need to look into forming an effective draft lobby, either by adapting the current internal set of entrance doors or potentially replacing with new. And I think that item also needs to be seen within a wider conversation about energy efficiency in heritage buildings, in that we need to sort of have an attitude towards what we want to preserve in the building and what we would be willing to sort of replace in terms of, upgrading in terms of energy efficiency. I think that we need to add new drainage channels generally in places around the outside of the building, so that we can be making sure that we're dealing with surface water adequately. We need to ensure that all wall vents are cleared, and those are at sort of below ground floor level. A number of the offices have suspended timber floors, and the air vents there provide fresh air, which blows underneath the suspended timber floor, taking away moisture, which could potentially cause problems to the timber structure. And they're looking like they need a good clear out. And they've sort of got about 132 years of accumulated dust and mud in there. I think that we need to continue sort of a calendar approach to sort of checking the maintenance of the building. I've got some suggestions in there of documents from Historic England, for example, that we could use as sort of models for that. Although I know obviously there is a schedule in place at the moment, but that could potentially be added to or reviewed. I think it would be very important to sort of discuss and agree a budget for future works in the town hall. And I think that's important because that will obviously inform some of our approaches as we go forwards. There will be aesthetic sort of issues that we'll want to sort of decide on. And it would help, I think, to have a sort of an idea of budget and an understanding of what's sort of already allotted to maintenance and repairs and what might be put forward as a sort of capital investment for improvements. And that should be understood also in the context of money that we might save in the future in terms of the energy that we use. And then, and that will help to sort of agree priorities and help apportion funds as money becomes available. So I think that we need to approach some building energy consultants in the same way that, you know, if you're an architect, that you would employ an engineer to help you with the sort of technical details. I think certainly as we move forwards to potentially looking at renewable energies and perhaps a ventilation strategy which could look at reclaiming heat, the design of those kind of systems really rely on good quality design to get them right and to make the sort of energy efficiency savings. And investing in that kind of area of work will save itself in future costs and the cost of potentially getting things wrong. And I think by having a sort of designed and costed plan, we can avoid spending money potentially on sort of sticking plasters. So, I'm thinking, if the gas boiler suddenly packs up, we want to know what's coming next, really, so that we can avoid just sort of spending money on something that we might have to change again. So I mentioned potentially sort of mechanical ventilation and with heat recovery. And I think that could be an interesting way of adding ventilation and improving the quality of the building, but also potentially saving money. And, for those of you who don't know, that's essentially a system that sort of will remove warm, stale air from the building and bring in fresh air from outside. But it'll, at the point at which those two systems sort of cross, there will be a heat exchange, and that could potentially help us save a lot of money. I think if we look at the heating system, again, sort of working in the context of a historic building, we currently have some interesting sort of radiators, and its potential. There is potential that those radiators could be used again in a future design, whether that be a heat pump. But I think that we obviously need to sort of have a design as to how we can modify that system and gain control over it, so it can become efficient. And again, that's where an engineer will help us. So just looking at the sort of combined savings of forming a new draft lobby, topping up insulation potentially in the loft, installing mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, and adding efficiencies to the heating system. Just those four things alone could probably save us around 27% in energy. That's a cost saving of 26% and carbon savings of 3,827 kilograms of CO2 per year. So that's the equivalent of driving 27,355 kilometres in an average car. So that's, I guess, about 2 years' worth of a family car. So, in terms of further areas to explore, I think understanding a general approach to retrofitting the town hall within the context of working with a historic building should be discussed. And agreed, and that'll help to inform decisions as we go on. To make our building carbon neutral, we do need to be moving away from fossil fuels, and it's likely that means moving towards a heat pump technology, simply because of the efficiency of that. Additional retrofitting measures to further reduce the amount of energy required to heat the town hall could include also secondary glazing and adding insulation to the suspended timber floors. We could also look at air tightness membranes added in the loft and below the floors. And indeed, those sort of measures might well be required before we could look towards installing any heat pumps. I'd also like to propose that we look more at solar energy, although obviously we do have a solar array on the roof above Froome FM. Sort of, times have changed and technology has moved on. I've used a tool from CSE, Solar Wizard, which suggests that we could be generating a vast amount of electricity. And although the installation costs could be as much as sort of £43,000, that could potentially save us over £7,000 a year in terms of bills and also money made from sort of exports. So something like that would have a payback period of around about 6 years. So again, that's something I think that a mechanical engineer could help us to examine. Would it be useful for me to just sort of talk you through some of the maintenance issues that I can see on around the building, or are you happy to just sort of chuck your questions? Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a bit conscious as to time. I don't know, was there anything new in the deck that you had?
No, I just thought if you'd like a little bit of clarity over some of the things that I'd mentioned, then I could provide that. But, feel free to, I can do that on another occasion.
Questions, I think. Steve? Okay, Anne.
I'm going to hang on to it until I've asked my question. You mentioned humidity levels. Mm-hmm. I've got a dehumidifier that's also an air purifier, and I'm thinking particularly the air quality in room 4. It's dehumidifying, improving the air quality and removing pollutants. And I think maybe 2 or 3 in a building of this size might be really useful. It's like my home, there are flagstones in the floor downstairs, and a lot of moisture comes up through those flagstones. So I think humidity levels need to be monitored and controlled.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And then it makes it cheaper to heat as well, because you're not heating up wet air.
Yes, totally. Yeah. I just think that whilst a dehumidifier is really useful in people's homes, that there's the potential for, well, obviously, you've got a much bigger building here and it needs a different approach. And also that a design system has the potential to save us, to be much more efficient than a bunch of dehumidifiers.
A few things. First, would there be any grants available from Homes England and stuff like that, being that this is a historic building?
we're looking at that. I know Sarah and I are looking at the public sector decarbonisation fund, and that's what I'm aware of at the moment.
Okay, and fair enough. The other thing with regard to the heating of this place, it's a big old building, and one gas boiler at the moment is sort of probably struggling to cope with all the different stuff. Have you looked into, or could we look into, different types of heating in different zones? So a combination of sort of air source heat pump doing part of the building, and then maybe storage heaters, maybe in here or something like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. So it's sort of like a bivalent approach rather than a monovalent. So possibly we could have heat pumps with a secondary system that would top up the heat on the coldest days of the year. Absolutely, yeah. But I think that's something that we need, service engineers to be crunching the numbers on. And it's certainly the devil is in the details when it comes to these sort of systems. So definitely worth getting a specialist in to design that rather than just sort of trying to tackle it ourselves or getting a supplier in to sort of do that. I think that we need independent third-party advice to sort of show us different options that we can choose from.
And again, like you did with the solar, 6-year payback, it would be interesting to see what the cost saving from energy would be over a sort of 5-10 year period, given, if we make this outlay and do this now, what's the payback in terms of monetary value and obviously the carbon reduction and stuff like that.
Yes, absolutely, yes. I think this could be very much be a case of opportunity and investment rather than reacting to what I think. If we start looking at it now, when we're not absolutely in crisis with because the boiler's broken down and can't be replaced, the advantage of starting to look at it now is that we have the luxury of planning that investment with the view of making money, of saving money in the future.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Nick? Thanks, Sally.
Hi, I'm Nick Dove. We haven't met before. Thank you very much. Great report. Really interesting reading. I've lived and worked in Victorian buildings, sorts of things, and I'm very nervous about the idea of getting plug-ins and different bits. You walk into a room and there's an air conditioning unit, there's a dehumidifier. It doesn't work in buildings like this in the long-term thing. I think your suggestion that we get an M&E report in, get some, have a look at the whole building, think about it as an envelope and how we can, deal with the sort of crises in different parts in terms of its ongoing thing, and then look at how we can make it safer to live in, nicer to live in. And the mechanical heat recovery, which I've been involved in the past, is a brilliant way of cleaning the air, recirculating heat, and making it less polluting for people to live in.
Yeah.
And hopefully, with the change of government, there may be some incentives around how we could work with listed buildings and put together something that's comfortable for everyone to live and work in, but also this issue around how we can reduce costs going forward and reduce our carbon footprint. So
absolutely,
I think what you're suggesting is the right way to go, and look at it as a whole thing rather than try and deal with things piecemeal.
Yeah, that's definitely my approach, a whole building approach, and positive in all the ways that you've described, but also hopefully as a kind of flagship for the town as well, so showing how it is possible to achieve savings and make an efficient, make a Victorian building efficient and work in. Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say yes. I think it's really important for the very reason you've just said, Sally, and also, as Green and Healthy Food Advisory Group, I think it is really important that this is a green and healthy building, and actually the health issues that you mentioned in the report I think are really important. I think the health of our staff and the people who come in, and I was thinking sort of back to COVID and the importance of ventilation, and over the winter I was ill for 6 months. I just kept getting ill over and over and over again. I'm not blaming this building at all, there's lots of reasons for that, but there is also then a knock-on effect in terms of staff taking time off work, and if they're getting ill and it's staying ill. So I think it is really important that we address, and I agree with Nick about and you with what you suggested, that I think what we need to do now is, those short-term things. I love, by the way, the door, the downstairs, the draft excluder. I was like, that's genius. Like, you just rehang it and you put a draft excluder in. It's just like stuff like that is like those small little things we can do that will have a big impact. Do that now, and then getting a consultant or whatever it is. I think it was like self-effacing the report. I think if we can have your support on it, that would be amazing, given that you know the building so well, and have it sort of costed, so then we can start to actually make decisions about what we do. But I think it's really important to have that plan in place.
Actually, for me, the only time I've ever heard the word quinquennial is when this council has been talking about the 5-year plan to look after this town hall. And clearly we need to revisit and revamp that plan. I think trying to get us ahead of the curve as you're doing is ideal. I do have a concern about MVHR, only because I've seen at least one installation where the noise level was intolerable and really disturbed the working environment. So I think that's a consideration, as well as getting the air quality right. You've got to consider any other issues.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And I mean, the same as would apply to any kind of mechanical installation, be that, ventilation or potentially a heat pump. So yes, that's always a consideration, isn't it, when we do building work? But, yeah.
Are you looking for a particular steer from us tonight, other than you're on the right path, go ahead with the short-term stuff that we can do at relatively low cost?
I think that's about right, isn't it? I think there is also lots of sort of stuff that we can be getting on with in the meantime, while we wait for consultations to sort of happen with engineers. But and that will be part of the sort of maintenance program moving forwards, and that will also be energy saving.
Can I add to that? Sally, you sort of on the second page suggested actions for now. I mean, I'm sniffing the air, sniffing the stale air by the sound of it here.
Slightly humid
there. Some of that stuff, perhaps we could just get on with now. Yeah. Maybe just liaise with Sarah to make sure we've got sufficient maintenance budget to do that, and then look at the costings and proposals to sort of take. So what do we do? Answer that question in more detail from an engineer's report, and then we'll be able to form decisions about budget setting and direction of travel, I think.
Yeah, and certainly getting those numbers together that say what the spend is and what the return is on it in both cash and CO2 terms is great.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, in terms of immediate stuff, I think some of these stuff by this winter, like the draft exclusion, like the smaller stuff, I think, with colder weather, hopefully not coming, but, in a few months' time, like it would be good to kind of make those changes before then, if we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I? I'm going to ask Sarah. What is the budget?
We've got 50,000 in the maintenance budget this year. No, sorry, 60. I think a lot of that was going to be more window work. I can't remember off the top of my head what the other big items were, but we've also got an EMR for town hall investment, which we were thinking was going to have to be roof work. We do actually have engineers booked in, so in the next couple of weeks we're going to have a building services survey, a structural survey, because of work that Sally's identified in the roof timbers from the dry rot, and a 10-year maintenance plan all put together. So within a couple of months we should have a much better idea of a path forward.
Sorry, I'm going to ask one more question, if you don't mind. How many panels have we got up there at the moment? And how many can we get up there?
I think that does need some more looking into. I mean, as far as I'm aware, we've only got panels. I don't know if you've got the agenda in front of you, but that picture shows. It's actually back to front on the printout there, but it shows panels over Froome FM, and as far as I'm aware, that's the only array that we have.
I think it is. They were installed by Your Eco, my cousin Nick. So not by FECO. I think they may be through FECO, but they're not. They were installed by Your Eco.
Okay, yeah. And
it's definitely not a lot. I remember having a conversation with Nikki. It's definitely not a lot up. There's not as many as we could have.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's a question of understanding how many panels we could have, and how that might interact with what we've already got, or potentially, potentially replacing what we already have, or understanding our ownership of the current solar panels. And so there's definitely more work to be done there. This is a sort of very much a first stage kind of approach.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I think we're about wrapped with that item, Paul.
So you're all right if we get on with the kind of urgent works so long as Sarah says we can afford it? No, I think
Consensus of the meeting.
Do we get the report back to Oversight when we get the proper, all the budget and everything?
Okay. Thank you very much for your work on that. Look forward to hearing more. Thanks. Okay. Moving on to item 5, to approve the updates to the staff handbook policies. This is where you say you've read my report. Any questions?
Do you know what I was going to say, actually? Detail is in the report. However, I did want to add a couple of things. It was just really just to say that some of these policies are quite important, and I just wanted you all to be a bit aware of them, because obviously they inform so much of the staff experience at the town council, and obviously the council is the employer. So I think it's really important that you've all got a really sort of round understanding. I'm not expect there's no pop quiz or anything on it. You'd be glad to know, but I think it's important that you do have a sense of what the policies are and what is available to staff, and these things. They're also, I would say, guidelines, and I think Sarah would agree that we would always put the individual first. And use the policies as a guideline for guiding what is possible. But obviously everybody is different and everyone's needs are going to be different. So these are really helpful just to give us a bit of a structure to see what we can offer. Obviously the flexible working is the one that I focused on most, because obviously by law, the update, it's now a day one right to request flexible working, whereas before you had to have 26 weeks of continuous service and only make one request in a 12-month period. Now you can do it from the day you start work, and you can make 2 requests in a year. But I think in terms of our recruitment and things, I think it's quite an important element that we can offer, because, salary-wise and things like that, I think we need to focus on what is really great about working for Frome Town Council. So some things like flexible working, working in the town you live, etc., are really good, positive things that we can make a bigger part of our recruitment package, although obviously they do need to be considered within the business needs, etc. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of highlight those particular things, and hopefully you all agree.
Fiona?
I completely agree with you. I had one thought, and I don't know whether it's a silly one, but I just thought, given there's been conversations about the use of the town hall and the amount of office space available, I just wondered whether sort of going on to a more sort of hot desking sort of approach with more people working from home a couple of days had been considered as a sort of an option, and whether that would be something that staff might like or might benefit or not. I don't know. I just sort of wondered, given that we seem to be running out of desk space a bit, whether if everyone worked from home 2 days a week, whether that might sort of been there was overlap. I don't know.
Sarah, do you want to take?
I think we're up to the flexibility that staff want at the moment. You can come in here and you can see empty spaces a lot of the time, and unfortunately there's a squeeze on a few days in one room. We don't know how to address that. We've offered space elsewhere in the building, but groups want to stay together, so we are offering the flexibility, and home working is certainly available for most jobs. Except obviously you can't run the front desk from home, you can't manage the town hall from home, and some people are required to be here to build relationships and team meetings and things. So I think we're a very accommodating employer at present, and we try to be as flexible as we can.
Okay. Nick?
Trying to follow Fiona all the time, making up questions. There's something I've been dealing with separately, is sort of COVID and post-COVID, there have been quite a lot of issues now raised with mental health coming out of working in isolation, working away from the sort of team dynamic, having that sort of interaction with people. I didn't see anything in this, or did I miss it? Have we kind of factor that in as a part of our consideration of how their line managers monitor that or aware of that as a potential risk?
Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly it was brought up to the forefront during COVID, particularly when we were all online. So it's something we're trying to encourage even now that we've got sort of this hybrid working, as you say. So a lot of us now do choose to work 50-50 or an amalgamation of. So that line manager and line managee relationship is really important and something we try to get right from day one. We offer training where possible. Jane is a mental health first aider, as Sarah, are you as well? And Sarah. And it's something we talk about a lot. We've talked about it a lot in staff meetings, and it is something that we keep at the forefront and offer to any of our staff. We've offered counselling in the past. Anything else you can think of that I'm missing?
No, but it's a good point. We could have it written down, but I think we coped and the staff coped pretty well in lockdown, amazingly. We were quite on it quite quickly that line managers needed to be in touch with their teams regularly. We had Zoom working within a few days of lockdown. We were very lucky. And when we've had mental health issues later, while being back at work, we've referred to occupational health and counselling sessions. So again, we've had to speed up our because our staff team has grown so much and more issues have arisen. But so we've learned as we've gone.
Thanks. I only heard of mental health first aiders about 2 days ago, so it's funny you suddenly hear that. But no, brilliant, because I think it's becoming something that's more widely accepted outside. But great, you're ahead of it.
Yeah, and I think also it's really part of our sickness policy as well that we don't just think about physical health as well. It is, we sort of have said it to staff a lot and tried to encourage that, because it's a bit of a cultural change as well, is recognizing that mental health can be just as debilitating as physical health. So we do make that as a point, and obviously if any staff did come to us and said, look, this is the situation, it would be treated in the same way as a physical health condition would be.
Can I just add to that as well? We have put in clinical supervision for front-facing staff who are working with vulnerable families. So in terms of the CARIS contract and working with displaced people.
Okay, thank you. So I think there's a decision required on this. Can I have somebody propose that I think I caught Anne first and Nick seconding, and it's unanimous. Okay. Thank you very much, Laura. Item 6, update on safeguarding matters, is one I'll take, if that's okay. So we talked about safeguarding, I think, 2 meetings ago, and this is just a follow-on to some of the changes that were proposed there. So we've got now a group of people working as a safeguarding team within the employed staff. We've changed the signing in book. We did run out of magic pages a while ago and go back to the old one, but we're back on the new one again. T's and C's for hiring have been updated, and support is in place for various community groups so that they can make sure their own safeguarding policies and procedures are suitable, with Nikki doing some of the local training on that. Basically, I think it's all there. The other thing is I've offered myself as a sort of liaison between employed staff and the councillors, only really given that I'm already in contact with current legislation because of other work I do. So anybody got any questions on what we've covered here? Okay. Can I ask for somebody? That's Nick proposing.
Hold on.
Oh, hang on.
Is it a recommendation? Is it a decision?
It's a decision specifically about my role, I think, is the main decision. And oh yes, sorry, I meant to mention that. we were suggesting that we add this as a standing item to every oversight committee. Even if there's nothing to report, it's just a good reminder to have it there as a nudge. Okay?
Laura and I were just talking about items.
Going a little bit backwards on what you were saying earlier about oversight and everything when we were talking about updates. So we used to have a standing item on health and safety. Generally, there's a staff update on this, so we thought about safeguarding and all of those sort of things where there's not usually much information, but it's really useful to know that, hey, everything's fine. Or there was one incident, but, you know, it has been sort of, it's in train and it's being worked out. So we potentially thought about having a sort of a one report that included sort of safeguarding health and safety and any staff matters, and then they could be separated out as and when they might be bigger.
Okay. So that was proposed by Nick, seconded, I think I caught Steve second, and it's unanimous. So on to Sarah and the finance update.
Yeah, it was on the financial regs, and there are no changes, as the paper says, and we'll report at a later council on the finance. So it'll either be August or September, more likely the September council or oversight.
Thanks. I must admit I was struggling to work through some of the numbers in that appendix because of the percentages just not making sense because they're not really compared to anything.
No, that's true.
Okay. Leave it till the official one comes out. Thank you. And item 8, back to you, Laura. There was the update on starters and levers. We've
Nothing to add unless anyone's got any questions.
No. Fiona, you'd already mentioned about the climate lead role.
I won't say we've had lots of applications. We are shortlisting. I was reading them today. Shortlisting tomorrow, interviews beginning of August.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Yeah. If you use your microphone, you can.
I just wanted to come back, sorry, and I know everyone wants to go quickly to the conversation about the Oversight Committee, because something, Paul, you said something and my brain wouldn't work quick enough to get it sort of lodged in my brain. It irked me slightly. I couldn't think why it was. And you said about the, like, us going away and doing a consensus. And I think we need to move away from that, because first of all, this is, if we can't talk about what the purpose of the Oversight Committee is in an Oversight Committee and it's in a public meeting, I don't think there's that many councillors that actually care that much about, the purpose of a meeting. And also, I think in terms of, I think we sometimes end up discussing things numerous times, and as someone who's quite engaged in and goes to most stuff, it can get quite frustrating to have the same conversation over and over again. And I think, I don't know, I guess I just want to say that I know that it's just me, but also we're in a room of five councillors who have, got to the Oversight Committee and members of the Oversight Committee. And I don't like when it's a case of go away as councillors and talk amongst yourselves in a quiet room that no one has access to make a decision personally. Again, I'm saying personally. So I guess I'm just saying that it's quite, if we have conversations, to have it and have the discussion rather than us then going away again and coming back.
My understanding, Fiona, was more that as leader of the council, Steve needs to take the sense of the wider councillors to see if there's any other points of view before we finalise on what the scope of this is.
Yes, but it's already finalised because it's in the thing. I guess I was just sort of, I guess I just sort of feel a bit, I mean, it's absolutely fine if he wants to do that. I guess I just sort of feel a little bit like sometimes we overcomplicate things a bit, and actually the public meetings are the meetings where we should be having the discussions and the debate, and not, I guess I just sort of feel that.
Okay, no.
But it's not that big a deal as well. I think it's such a, I just don't know.
I just don't want to do the work twice.
No. Okay.
That's a fair point, but I'm not clear on what you're asking me to do, I'm afraid. So.
I don't know that I'm asking you to do anything.
Okay. I mean,
other than what we'd agreed about like, you know, having a look at what's coming up, and then maybe that is cause for another discussion. But I guess I'd rather that discussion was in an oversight committee meeting rather than in an oversight committee and in a if meeting and one-on-one amongst lots of councillors, is what I'm trying to say.
I think, yeah, let's have a look at the next agendas, what is proposed to be on that agendas, and then, as you say, at the next oversight committee, we can.
Agenda item on agenda.
Anne's got very excited about that.
This is going to be the most meta.
Can I flag?
You've had your time.
Can I add then that we will make finance as big an issue as we can at the next oversight, because it'll be about 5.5 months in, and we'll send you as detailed reports as we can on finance, unless there's something else really pressing on that agenda.
Well, there may be.
Great, in which case we'll get off.
Okay.
It's a really valid point that if there is something that you know coming up, which is really important and needs a big chunk of time, the sooner we know that it's on that agenda, then we can sort of keep the agenda light, if you know what I mean, rather than we having to rush something that after 2.5 hours or whatever it is, you know, and just say, right, let's move that to that one and juggle it around.
That's what we try to do all the time. I mean, I just can't guarantee sort of what items are going to be boring and what items are going to be heightened discussion. But you're right, Steve.
Okay. Thank you all. In that case, I'll close this meeting at 8:31. And the next meeting is on the